Welcome to Chapter 3 of the Reality Reconstruction Program. Now, this probably might be the shortest part of the program, but don't let your mind equate shortness to insignificance. And I say that to say that this section will probably go by quick, but it is probably where you're going to spend the most time thinking because it is the most important. Now, you might have a monthly number in your head. It might be 20K, 30K, 40, 50, 60, 100. Whatever that particular number is, if there is not the dimension of clarity in how I go about quantifying clarity, it will not work. It is not enough to just choose a number and say, oh yeah, that sounds nice, I'm going to choose that, because that means it's arbitrary. And one of the biggest mistakes that I come across when I talk to people or I work with people is a lack of clarity. Because if you imagine the subconscious mind to be an assassin, right? If you just give it blank details like we're going to get into very shortly, you're going to see what that particular outcome leads to. The subconscious mind loves specificity. It revolves around specificity. So that whatever it is, the particular number you have to want and be all right with accepting everything that that particular number embodies, which we're going to get into, as I said. When it comes to clarity, it's all about having crystal clear clarity. The mistake that is often made is that you know what you don't want instead of what you do want. Now, and this is very easy. For example, do you want to be poor? No. Do you want to struggle? No. Do you want to live a life of suffering? No. Do you want to live a life of limitation? No. Very, very simple. Very, very easy. But unfortunately, we've been trained to easily identify what we don't want instead of what we do want. Now, that level of focus leads to a centralization of energy, because that's what focus is. Focus is centralizing energy. Now, if you're focusing energy into what you don't want, right, and you know more of what you don't want, that's exactly what you're going to manifest. Now, I always use this example, right? Let's say you enter a foreign country where you don't speak the language and they don't speak whatever language that you speak. So you can't particularly communicate. You see a restaurant, you're like, I'm gonna go there. The waiter, they come take you to your table. You know, you're kind of guessing what they're saying because you can't communicate back and forth. You don't speak the same language or a common language. Now, the waiter gives you the menu and you assume they say, I'll be back, I'll let you have some time to decide what you want to eat. The waiter comes back, you open up the menu and you point to the fish and you say, I really, really don't want the fish. I really, really don't want the fish. Like, please, you know, anything except the fish, and you're pointing to it. Then you close the menu and say, I'll have the steak. What do you think that waiter is going to bring back to you? They are going to bring the fish, because you haven't clearly, with crystal clear clarity, identified what you want. And that's what it's like with the universe. Now, extrapolate that small example to a universal cosmic level, where oftentimes it's easy for us to centralize our energy on what we don't want. You know, we might say, oh man, I really don't want these problems, or whatever it is. And all of these things play a factor because, like I said, focus is a centralization of energy. Now, let's say I had I wanted to send an assassin for somebody, right? And forgive the example, it's a bit morbid, but it will help you understand what I'm trying to say. So imagine I had an assassin, or you had an assassin, and there was one person you wanted to target. You wanted your assassin to get rid of that person, shoot them with a missile or a bullet or whatever it is, right? It's not enough to say, yep, they're black, they're 5'8", they're dark skinned, and they wear Jordans. Because you might kill half the black people. Okay, half is a big extreme. You might kill 1/16 of the black people across the world. And I say that to say, if you did have an assassin, you'd want them to have a level of specificity so they can get the right target. And it's the same thing with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind only responds to a deep level of specificity, and that is crucial. When it comes to clarity, like I said before, I kind of illustrated to this already. Without clarity, the mind has no direct place to cast the electrical wave of the mind to signal to the universe that this is the reality that you want. When you don't have a level of clarity, how do you expect the universe or your mind to send the correct signal to the universe to bring back exactly what you want. It doesn't make sense. Just imagine sending a text to a friend, and then the text that you actually sent, the words are all muddled up. They're not going to understand what you're saying. They're not going to know how to appropriately respond to you. Now, clarity in of itself allows for the imagination to construct an emulation of that reality that you desire, which from that point, once you have crystal clear clarity, all we're doing is slowing down the rate of that particular thought in terms of its vibration for it to materialize into reality. Now, one thing, and this is crucial, right? Clarity is always maximized by an alignment of the two aspects, your mind and your heart. And I say that to say that there's plenty of studies on this, right? You know, the studies of Heart Math Institute, which, you know, go into the kind of quantum physical relation to the heart and reality, brain and heart coherence and stuff like that. You can look at Dr. David Hawkins, you know, Frederick Dodson. All of these kind of great researchers have identified that once the heart and the mind are in alignment, it allows for the activation of the two part of the electromagnetic field. Remember, the mind is electrical, the heart is the magnet. And it's much easier for you to pull a reality, right, or manifest when your heart is in alignment and your mind is in alignment. Once they've agreed, right, it's kind of like that Bible verse, you know, when two shall agree on earth, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven, right? And it's almost like that type of level of cosmic certainty. Now, when it comes to clarity, there must be no hesitation surrounding your goal. And when we get on our call and we speak, this is something that I'm going to identify with you to properly map this out, because it happens all the time. Do you think you could make 50 million in 60 days? Now, probably a part of your brain is going to say, well, it's not impossible. But the overall feeling that you're going to get is from your heart, and it's going to be no. And that's important, because oftentimes we choose these kind of arbitrary numbers that just sound nice. Yeah, I'm going to make 1 million in a month, but I'm making 5K right now, or 10K right now, or 30K right now. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Now, the alignment of your heart or mind isn't always necessary. It's not mandatory, but it just works better in that particular order. Now, with the power of reality creation, you definitely have a cheat code that sets you apart from others, which can propel you to a new level. However, and I come across this all the time, the excitement of your pure potential makes you fall into the mistake of selecting a monthly revenue goal that is far too big for you. And this might be something I've identified on one of our calls already, or something that I'm going to identify if you do have it. But what you have to understand is, on a cosmic level, there is no big or small in terms of goals. And that's because consciousness is omnipotent and it's the substance of reality. So there's nothing big or small. These are kind of time, space constraints that our ego conceptualizes in the third dimensional realm. But as you move to the higher planes, there is no big or small. And it's like Jesus said, you know, in Matthew 19:26, and I don't say this from a religious perspective, but from an esoteric metaphysical perspective. With men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. You know, men is the ego, God is the consciousness. And here's the thing. If we kind of extrapolate the men part of that and take that to the subconscious, on a subconscious level, your mind has accepted a particular frame of reference of what it deems possible for you to manifest, which is limited to what you've experienced. Meaning, if you're at a 20K per month level, chances are your mind is going to find it very difficult for you to get to 100K per month in 60 days. It would probably be wiser for you to go to 30K, make that your target. And I say that to say that, imagine trying to fit a watermelon into a glass, the glass being your subconscious mind and the watermelon being your goal. And that's what we often do without realizing that if we just reverse engineer those steps and split them up into incremental steps, it's going to be much easier for your subconscious mind to accept that. And that ease of it being easier allows for you to get it into your subconscious mind and materialize it into reality so much quicker. And this is one of the reasons people really struggle to manifest, and it's because they think they have clarity because they know what they want, but they don't have clarity because their subconscious mind hasn't accepted that goal. Now, there is a particular practice that I want you to do, and we're going to go over this in your core. And there is 5 steps or 5 questions that I always use to get crystal clear clarity. And this will be quite revealing once you do this. So pause right now, get a piece of paper, and just go through these questions right now. So when we get on our call, they're done. So number one, what do you want specifically? I want 20K, 30K, 40K, 50K. Cool. Why do you want it? Oh, because it will do this, or do this, or do this, right? And right now, this is an example, but when you go through this with a level of specificity, and it will require introspection into you actually coming across, because I can guarantee you haven't asked yourself this. Number three, who needs you to do this? Who are you doing this for? Who needs this? And I say that because the most successful people that I've always worked with are never doing it for them. It's never about them. Because if you are doing it for you, you're selfish, and it's not going to work out for you. Because when it comes down to it, we don't really ride out for ourselves. We always ride out for people. It might be your partner, your father, your mother, your, friend, family, or whoever's relying on you, grandparent. Who needs you to get to this next level? Who's relying on you? Who are you doing this for? And that's a powerful question, because once we're able to extrapolate that answer, we're able to use that and use it to sustain you throughout reality. Number four, how will you take care of it when you've manifested it specifically? Oftentimes we think, oh, I want 100K in a month. How are you going to manage 100K a month? How are you going to sustain that money? How are you going to save it, invest it? Where are you going to put it towards? How are you going to ensure that you're consistently making that same amount? How are you going to take care of it? Because we always talk about what we want, but we never put ourselves into the consciousness of that particular level to know how we'd manage it. And finally, once your desire has manifested, are you willing to accept the responsibility? And I say responsibility on a social level, a pressure level, an expectation level from yourself and others may have for you, a financial level. There's a lot of responsibility that's going to come, and you're probably going to jump to say yes, but actually think about it, right? Because oftentimes, you making a certain amount of money in your business might mean that you have more people to feed, more people relying on you. And deep down, this may be something that you actually don't want, which is why your subconscious mind is blocking it from materializing, because you have a fear of accepting the true responsibility of what comes with stuff. And we see this all the time. You go up to the average person on the street, hey, do you want to make 100K a month and, be a business owner? Yeah. Do you want to be responsible legally for any implication that come onto your business? Do you want to be responsible for helping people feed their families and their children? There's a lot that comes to this. So you're going to have to map out the responsibilities that would come with that financial level. It might be, keeping up to date on certain things, making sure you have certain systems in place, making sure you've hired this person, whatever it is. You have to actually dive deep and find out if you want the responsibility of this, because your subconscious mind already knows what responsibilities are entailed, but your conscious mind doesn't. So you might very well be getting blocked. I shall see you in chapter 4.